Hello, everyone, and welcome to what are we calling this? We're calling this the Web Dev Podcast. So we're on the new format here where we're doing two parts, right? So the first part is discussion, and then the second part is pair programming. And since you're watching live, you're going to see both of those things. But in the recorded versions, they'll be released as two separate things. So this is only the second one of these that we've done. We're kind of working on getting it ready to roll here. So just a heads up, if you're watching this live, that it might look a little different from the previous Learn with Jason's. Content will be the same, but the end result will be a little different in terms of how we release it. So that being said, what are we doing? All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Web Dev Podcast. Today on the show, we're going to be talking to a longtime friend of mine, former coworker, somebody who I've been kind of just professionally interwoven with for a very long time. I admire very much Marcy Sutton, and we're going to be talking about Astro, the process of migrating to Astro. Marcy and I both worked at Gatsby back in the day, and built a lot of stuff with Gatsby, and have since both started moving everything toward Astro. So we're going to talk a little bit about why, and then later on the pair programming side of the show, if you jump over to the Learn with Jason show, you will see us actually pair programming on setting up images in Astro. So please join me in welcoming to the stage Marcy. Marcy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Jason?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to have you here. I feel like, there was this brief, glorious moment in time where you and I used to do all sorts of stuff together, and then fate intervened and spread us out across the industry. So I'm just, I'm grateful to get some time with you. How have you been?
I've been good. I working as a senior front-end software engineer at Khan Academy, and just really loving being an IC again, because when I worked at Gatsby, I took on a manager path. Didn't love it. So I'm back to doing what I really enjoy.
Leadership is a hard path, and it is definitely not for everybody. It is not. I don't think it's for me. Well, I don't know. I guess it kind of depends, right? Because I guess I'm technically leadership, but like I'm the only one here, so.
Yeah, totally. That's a different animal than being part of an organization.
For sure. But so you've had your path in tech has been kind of winding all over the place, really cool stuff that you've been able to work on. So maybe just to give us a quick intro for folks who aren't familiar with you and your work, do you want to give us just the highlights?
Sure. Yeah. I started out as a front-end developer in agencies in Seattle. And in, I think, my second role, I was working for Target as a client. And I was exposed to web accessibility. And that was all the way back in 2010, maybe 2011 timeframe. So it's right as responsive design became a thing, like literally the first responsive website came out around that time. And so accessibility and responsive web design, as a front-end developer, that really shaped what I like to build and how I like to solve user interface problems. So with that knowledge, I learned that I just wanted a bigger impact. So rather than working on one marketing website at a time that might only live for 6 months or have a limited impact on actual people, I really wanted to get more into software development, automated testing, frameworks. So I worked on Angular for a bit, Angular Material as a UI framework. I went and worked on accessibility tooling, including the AxeCore accessibility testing library and associated tools. But I really wanted to get back to building UIs, user interfaces. So I was chasing that idea, ever since the beginning of getting to work on big brands like Target. And so now I'm back doing that at Khan Academy, and I'm on the front-end infrastructure team. And I get to build our design system, which is built with React. Figuring out how that fits into various properties at Khan Academy, which is an educational, it's an ed tech nonprofit. So yeah, I'm in the nonprofit space now, and I love it. It's awesome. It's hard. The people are great. It's for a good mission. Yeah, It's all like my path led me to a spot that I really, really enjoy.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't really, knowing what I know about you, I can't think of a better place for you to land. It's great to see, like, finding a company that's aligned with your mission and your sort of core values is such a, it feels rare in this industry. So I'm very happy to hear that you found a spot that lines up with yours. And so, you and I mentioned before, worked at Gatsby together. And in that time, I think both of us ended up rebuilding personal sites in Gatsby because, that was the thing to do. And so it's been years now. Oh my God, it's been like 7 years. What? Too long. Time flies in this industry.
Yeah, well,
And
COVID was in
so,
there. That was time warp.
yeah, that's true. For real. I still, um, but it's been a while now, and I know that you have been sort of recently working on rebuilding your personal site, right?
Yes.
And so, can you talk a little bit about, what I guess spawned the desire to make the change, and kind of what decisions did you make going forward on how you were going to do that?
Yeah, so I've got a personal website, marcysutton.com, that I think the first version of it, like I purchased a domain in 2003. And so it's been kicking around in various formats. I think it was WordPress for a long time. Then I moved to Gatsby. I moved the content into Markdown. So I've severed any connection from a CMS or content management system because I don't need it. I'm an engineer. I can write Markdown. It's fine. So I moved it into Gatsby when we worked there, and it worked great, but I did not maintain. So I didn't upgrade to the newer APIs that Gatsby created. It was kind of a chapter in my life I wanted to be done with. So I was able to keep publishing for a while. I could keep writing blog posts without doing a major upgrade. But at this point, I'm on a new computer. I have a blog post I want to publish about working at Khan Academy, and I don't have a computer that's even running Gatsby anymore. So rather than upgrade Gatsby, I had heard good things about Astro. It seemed like a logical migration. So I used Cursor, the IDE, to help me do a lot of the heavy lifting of just like get it running. So that made it pretty easy because I'm busy. I'm a mom, and yeah.
So when you did that, did you like give it the Gatsby site and say, convert this to Astro, or did you go from scratch?
Yeah. I told it to convert. It seemed like a really great time saver personally. Like I've got a toddler at home. Like I don't have time to tinker at that stage.
Right.
It's like different stages in your life. That might be a thing that you want to do by hand. For me, I really wanted to get to publishing. Like I need to get the site back up and running. So that's why I went that route, and it was pretty smooth. There were some hard edges, like I had to go and fix components that it didn't build out all the way. And I think I've gotten mostly everything. Like my contact form is wired back up. It is mostly complete except for my blog images. And for some reason, I am just having the hardest time figuring out how, without moving all of my blog images, because, writing on a blog since 2003, I have quite a bit of content.
Right.
And sure, I could script a move of my images, but I'd rather not. I'd rather keep my images co-located with the Markdown. And it works great locally, does not work when I deploy it. And there's something about Vite, the way Vite handles images, like there's some issue with paths on where the images end up that I have not figured out yet. I've done a few various things, like I have a script that moves my blog images into a public folder, but like that's pretty clunky. I don't want to have to copy my images, then they're not being processed. So yeah, that's kind of my problem statement is I got almost all the way there, but my Markdown images, the paths are getting lost when I deploy the site.
And so, so before we dive into like the specifics of the images, how, like, other than that, how has the experience been? Like, what what would you say are your sort of comparison points or like highlights or just overall impressions of using Astro?
Yeah, this is pretty deep and a really good question for me personally, because when I worked on Gatsby, it had
Hmm.
a lot of client-side hydration. So you would have
Yes.
server-side rendered content, but then it got rehydrated into a JavaScript, client-rendered environment. And at the time that I worked there, I was really concerned with accessibility and client-side routing. So I wrote a pretty big, or at least impactful blog post at the time on client-side routing and accessibility, where I did some user testing. Because I was
Hmm.
trying to fix this issue of, if everything's rendered with JavaScript, we lose some of the default behavior in a screen reader, specifically of like the page being announced. So I did all this research to figure out how to fix this problem, but the whole time I was going, I kind of just don't want to client render everything. Like,
Right.
why are we rehydrating content that already existed on the server, and now it's like duplicated in all these JSON files? And just the whole approach just seemed like I was over it. So moving to
Yeah.
Astro, having it not do this whole client-side hydration thing is great. Like, I just want to get that approach out of there. And so that's compelling to me, to have less of a focus on client-rendered
Yeah. I
JavaScript.
mean, that really is like one of the big things that drew me to Astro as a project was I had that same sense of discomfort. I was like, listen, 95% of my website is not dynamic. Like very little of this is interactive or needs to be client rendered or any of these things. I am just showing some words on a page. So this idea that if I put it in Gatsby or Next or Remix or any of these, it's going to end up being like downloaded twice, rehydrated, turned into this big heavy JavaScript thing that ultimately does nothing. It never sat with me right. Like it always just felt like
Yeah.
I'm making the browser do a lot of work for nothing.
But your
Um,
page transitions were fast. Like, I don't care about that.
yeah, I mean that was kind of my
Personally.
thing too. Is I if you've got a fast enough page, then like I've never hit a link on a website and then like it reloads the page to show me the next page. I've never thought to myself, what a crappy website. Like it's when it's slow that I think it's crappy, right? And a lot of
Yes.
times what makes it slow is that we load 6 MB of JavaScript that don't do
And the
anything, and then
images.
it's like, oh yeah, that's rough. Oh yeah, images as well are a killer. Like I love it when I'm on a train and I realize that somebody has a 9 MB image that they like just resized and didn't. It's like, oh no.
Yes. So the
uh,
tooling can help us there, which is kind of going
right.
back to what I was saying about my blog images. That's why I don't want to
Hmm.
just dump them in a public static folder to not be processed.
Right.
Like,
Right.
that resizing is really handy when it can optimize for various screen sizes. Like, having
Hmm.
some capability where the framework is helping you there is really appealing, but we don't need to client render the entire page to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly right. Like, use the framework for things that you can't get out of the browser, but don't use I was having a conversation with Dan Abramov about this, and I feel like at some point I felt like React diverged from being like we're going to make the DOM reactive to we're going to fully replace the DOM. And the expectation shifted from like React is a thing you add to a website to get reactivity to React is the full application layer, and it is used instead of the browser. Like you're not using web APIs, and if you're ejecting to those, that's sort of treated as it sort of feels like doing it wrong. Like all the guidance is like, oh, well, why would you do that? You lose all the reactivity if you do that. And I know that's not how the React team feels. They're not saying like don't use the browser, but the tools are built in a way that to me felt like they were saying, well, look, all that stuff you know about how to build a website from before React, don't do that. Do it the React way. And that starts to feel very it's at odds with the way that I think about the web. Like I want to use the web as often as possible until I hit something that is just straight up not supported. Like you can't tell the browser generate optimized images. That's not a reasonable thing to expect a client to do. You need a server to do that. You need some kind of processing step, whether that's your build step or whether that's your server side rendering. And so I think this is where I feel like Astro has sort of they've hit my level of taste for how to build, where it's very much designed as you don't use it until you need it, and then you can use it, right? Like you want one component to be client, opt in to that one component being client rendered, and then and only then they'll actually boot React and run your React component or your Vue component or your Svelte component. But otherwise, they're just going to send static stuff, and you don't need to worry about like, hey, did this hydrate? No, it didn't hydrate. There's no hydration step. An Astro site will ship 0 JavaScript by default. That's really freaking cool. Like, when can you say that about a framework these days?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I will say there's some web applications where you do need more infrastructure. Times when you've got a lot of data to fetch, making something really app-like. Like there's certain times when you kind of have to go all in on a web application framework. But then you're kind of committed at that point, like to get, I don't know, the back button to work right. And like, there's just so much that you end up having to do all of that to make it as robust and performant as you would expect, but it's kind of a slippery slope. So if you don't need it. Yeah.
And this is our job as developers, is to sort of look at the thing we're building and say, what am I actually trying to accomplish here? Like, what are the requirements of this project? And does it require, like, if I'm building a dashboard for a SaaS app and everything is behind authentication and it's all like, we need that async fetching and everything is updating based on other things. You've got filtering and settings and all this stuff you're doing. Yeah, that's a great use case for React. And that's what I would reach for in that case, or Svelte or Nux, like a fully hydrated client application. But like, I'm building a marketing site, I'm building a blog. And in most of those cases, the trade-offs just don't make sense. And I think this is where I love this conversation, because it's important to me that we're not looking at these things as like always use X or always use Y. It's not about only use Astro or only use React. Like, you shouldn't have a camp. Like, I feel like this is the joke I always make is, it's like if you were to hire a contractor to like paint your walls, and he showed up and he pulls out a hammer and you're like, what are you doing? Like, don't you need a paintbrush? He's like, nah, I'm a hammer guy, I'm going to make this work. And it's like, what do you mean? Like, that's a silly, like, sure, you could paint a wall with a hammer, but it's not very efficient.
It's going to take forever.
Yeah. And it's like, you're not going to get as good a job out of it. And like all the things about that decision are weirdly dogmatic, and it doesn't make sense. But because frameworks, we don't look at them that way. We don't see how ridiculous it is to say like, well, I only work in React. It's like, what do you mean? You're here to do a job. What tool solves that problem? Not what tool do you like? That doesn't make any sense. But so
that might be a good, like, in a certain place in your career, like if that's what you've built with, then that's great. You have experience in React. I think when you get to these more senior staff levels is when you start looking at systems and trade-offs. And like, Jason, the way you talk about it, you seem like a very senior level person to be looking at it kind of objectively, knowing that there's other options and other tools, and you're kind of, thinking up front, maybe there's a better way or another way. Whereas I think when you're just starting out, you only know what you know so far, and you're going to reach for the thing you know. And if that's how you can get a job done for whatever you're doing, play around with it, do it. I think what we're talking about is being a little more discerning, because we're looking at building different types of things. So yeah, it's kind of a journey to be on.
That's a very astute observation, I think, because I have the curse of experience where I'm looking at things through the lens of how I've gone through the industry and all the mistakes I've made. And I sometimes forget that, people are at different places. And like, if you've only ever built sites in React, it would be kind of ridiculous to ask you to suddenly not do that. It would be, it's like, that'd be like asking me to suddenly go write Fortran. It's not that I couldn't do it. It's that it would really, like, why would you ask me to do that? I'm not really the person you want doing that job. Like, that's a very significant departure from my core skill set. So yeah, I think that's a great a great caveat there. So I guess maybe some takeaways here before we wrap. When you think about this stuff, like, do you find your approach to building for the web, right? So you've been doing this as long as I have. How is your thinking about web projects shifting as you've sort of moved through WordPress to Gatsby to Astro and everything that you're doing at your day job with React? And what, like, do you have some heuristics that you're using when you're looking at projects that maybe people could take with them as they're looking at their own?
Yes, it's funny to be totally vulnerable for a second. And a lot of it's informed by having burned out before. I'm looking at like what is absolutely necessary, and I'm not gonna like go add bells and whistles just for fun because I don't have time for that. Like, what do we really need to get this job done? Like, I don't need a CMS connection on my website. Like, I'm not an audience where I need that. Whereas like the website I'm building for my neighborhood association, I want non-technical people to be able to edit that content. So I'm making different choices for that site. But honestly, part of it's like laziness. Like, how far do I need to go to get this job done? What do we really need? But some use cases do need more complexity. And in my day job, I'm in that space. Like, I am looking at really complex components that have to support a wide variety of use cases, error handling, a lot of dynamic data fetching, bigger teams. So there's like a team component where, there's just like a lot of machinery that I have to understand and work with. So that's why in my personal site, I'm going to make really stripped down basic choices to keep it simple, to just get the job done, but like be able to go ride my bike afterward, like, or go make food. I don't have time to like be tinkering all day at night.
Yeah, I think that's a really like smart way to look at it. I think, well, not to assign intelligence to it, but to maybe assign like mental health to it. I think like there's so much value in recognizing like, what job am I trying to do right now? And when I was younger, I would build sites because that was my hobby. I would do the hard thing and I would tackle the weird rabbit holes, and I would chase every weird thing that I could find to just see where it led. I wanted to figure out how this stuff worked. That's not me today when I'm working on a personal site. I have a personal site because I need a place to put stuff that doesn't fit elsewhere, right? And I want to have some kind of record of things. So if I make it complicated, I'm going to spend all my time keeping the thing running instead of doing the thing that I wanted to do, which is like build my little log of activities in the world that don't fit into my professional site. And you can see that now if you look at my personal site, where I don't update it very often. And that's because I made it too damn complicated.
Same.
And
I've been camping on this blog post. I've been at my job for over a year now. So I've been camping on this blog post for a while.
Yeah. Well, I think,
I
mean, great insights here. And I think, to everybody listening, like, remember that tools are here to solve a job. Like, they're here to solve problems. They're not here to become an identity or to become a one size fits all solution. They are available to us to fit the needs of what we're doing. Marcy, where should people go? You already mentioned marcysutton.com. Is there anywhere else that you want people to go to keep up with what you're doing and what you're up to?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I guess I wanted to conclude one last thought on that.
Sure, absolutely.
The space that someone might be in your life, you might be in that tinkering phase. Like, your constraints might be different than a busy parent or somebody who's just like thinking all day long in a complex work environment. Like, you might have the space and time to tinker, and that's will serve you at certain parts of your life. So I just wanted to point that out. Like, you and I might be in a more mature part of life, geriatric millennials. But that doesn't mean that tinkering doesn't serve a purpose. So
Right.
just want to put that out there because I've done plenty of that myself when I have more time and
100%.
interest.
100%.
So yeah, as far as finding me these days, blue sky, hopefully it lasts because not really checking
we'll
Twitter
see.
anymore. I used to be on Twitter all the time and that is no more.
Yeah.
Instagram, GitHub, probably you can probably spy on my open source contributions on GitHub, github.com/Marcy Sutton. I'm Marcy Sutton on most of the things.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I'm throwing some links up for folks here so that they can find you on these places. And I just appreciate you taking the time to share your insights on this stuff, because I think it is getting harder and harder to talk about tools in a way that doesn't feel dogmatic. I think that, the algorithm seems to polarize and it only wants to go to extremes. So having these nuanced conversations where, it depends, right? It's getting less and less common. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk about that. Everybody, make sure you go and check out Marcy's stuff wherever you can find it. And remember, if you're interested, we also have a pair programming companion program to this called Learn with Jason. You can find it on YouTube on the Code TV channel. Marcy, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to switch over into pair programming, and then we're going to just start the whole show over again. So just bear with me, everybody, while we get this done. Let's go. We're going to turn this on. There it is. Okay, so yeah. All right. So hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, Marcy Sutton and I are going to be digging into images in Astro, and this one's going to run a little different. Usually I'm the one on the keyboard, but today Marcy is going to be working on her own personal site that she's been migrating to Astro, and we are going to dig into how to really get command over your images in an Astro site. And I am hoping against hope that it can actually solve this problem. So Marcy, do you want to, I guess before we get started, give us a quick overview of kind of who you are, what you do, and what we're working on today?
Sure. Yeah. Hey, Jason. I'm Marcy Sutton Todd. I am a senior software engineer at Khan Academy, where I work on the front-end infrastructure team. I work on design systems, accessibility, automated testing, really just baking accessibility into a nonprofit ed tech platform. Mission is to help learners everywhere. So that's what I'm doing for my day job. And I've got this personal website that various versions of it have been kicking around since 2003. And I wanted to replatform it in Astro from Gatsby. We talked about it a little bit in our interview section, but kind of high level purpose is to get it onto a platform that's a little better maintained, a little simpler, not as much client rendered JavaScript, because primarily it is an information website. It has, my about page and my blog articles, and that's about it. Not a lot of interactivity. And so it really made sense to do something with Astro.
Nice. Yeah. And for anybody who wants to listen, we have a longer conversation that's a little more abstract about building websites, choosing the right tools for the job, and a whole bunch more over on the Web Dev podcast. So go check that out on the Code TV website. Okay. So let's dive right in here, and let's maybe just get familiar with your site and what's going on with it. And then we'll see what we can get done.
Sure. All right. So ta-da! Here's my site, marcysutton.com. I have a kind of loose dream or desire to redesign it, but I had an existing site. I'm just going to keep the design for now because primarily I wanted to change the infrastructure. Going from Gatsby to Astro, I thought, not have scope creep here. Let's just get the replatforming done. And then if I want to change the way it looks, I'll do that later.
Yeah.
But the main goal here is to get something that supports my content. So I've got featured content. This is my testing accessibility online course that I created. I would probably replace this feature with whatever my next, newest piece of content is. I have writing where each post has its own page. It has images in the post. kind of blog index file pages where all of the articles are listed. There's little sidebars about my public speaking that I do very rarely now these days, but there's an archive of most of the things that I've done. On my homepage, I've got a newsletter that I haven't been sending out from. Feel free to sign up for it. I haven't really been using it. Past conference talks. So I have some media widgets that load YouTube embeds, some links. This I update periodically. The live site, which is marcysutton.com, doesn't have some of this content that I have locally. But I'm very proud that I recorded an episode of Leap Heat with Jason back in January. That was a blast.
That was,
and then some images. Yeah, that was awesome. Some images here. These are hard coded for now, but I had an idea of having a pool of images that I could just auto populate, kind of copied down from my Instagram. But yeah, that's kind of the basic architecture. Talks, links have their own page. My about page has my bio and like a short version that if I do a podcast or a conference talk, I can just copy paste the short version. So yeah, that's about it. So my primary goal for today is to deal with these images. So on my blog posts, I have images that are co-located with the markdown. So let me show you where that lives. I can't make my finder bigger from this view, but my Astro site, all the content is in the content folder. Under posts, I have a ton of posts. Some have images, some don't. But for the ones that do, such as the one we're looking at on the screen for developing anti-Slack policies for accessibility Slack with Harvard Cyber Law Clinic, very long title, reading it out so that folks who are listening but not watching can hear what I'm talking about. There's a markdown file for the post itself, and then there's two images co-located in the folder.
Okay.
When I moved over to Astro, that worked fine locally, but not when I deployed it. So if we look at, in my IDE, developing, so the markdown post has some front matter at the top. It's got a cover image, various little bits. Like that part's working fine. For some reason, cover images, because they're imported, I guess, they are working. It's these relative links within the content that I'm having trouble with. And for the life of me, I cannot figure out how to do this. If we go to the deployed site, here's an example where an image is broken. And if I go, let's just keep it kind of related to what we were looking at locally. Oh no, it's working now. What did I do? Let's see. Let's look at the path of this image, because this might be one I copied. This is probably one that I copied into the public folder. That's my guess. I'm gonna laugh if it wasn't working and then now it is. That would be, our job would be done. It's like the ultimate rubber duck if it worked that way.
Right.
So the way that I can check this locally, because this is deployed with Netlify, I haven't made the switch over to my real domain yet because I wanted to make sure everything worked. But if we look at my scripts, we can kind of mimic the live environment with Astro Build and Astro Preview. So right now, I think I am. I am doing that right now. I'm in the preview locally, and that is apparently working.
So that's working. Can we look at your Astro config just to see kind of how the images are set up right now?
Yes, and I have only been working with this Astro site for a short period of time, so I'm still kind of figuring my way around as well, obviously. So here's my Astro config that has an output folder of static, but nothing explicitly for images that I can tell, aside from maybe MDX, or that's about it for images in this config. I did create a script that this might be why my images are working, is that it moved, like I can run it and it will move or copy my images into looks like source content. And so that may have made it work. But looking at those URLs of the images, they were in an Astro directory. So I don't know if Astro is like changing those URLs. Like, I don't know. That's like a magic folder that I didn't create. So I don't know if you know anything about those automatic paths, but
so the way that Astro should be handling this is that when you've got your markdown files, by default, if the local images in source and remote images get processed and optimized. So what that should mean is that this should just work. So what I would love to try is let's check that the public folder doesn't have your images.
Yes. And you know what else I want to do to compare? Because it might be working in the preview, but not in the local dev server. So that's one thing we could compare. Because like when I hover over this image, it doesn't, my operating system can't find this image. So like there's something with the way Vite deploys that is different than your operating system setup with your images. So I think at this point, it might be that it's broken in the local dev, but working remotely, which maybe I have to live with. But
well, this one is actually, the path is wrong on this one.
Yeah.
Because this one, you're in the features folder, and then it's trying to go into a nested features folder.
Yes, features, images. So within features, this image
doesn't exist.
It got moved. Fun. Okay, so here's public, features, images. There's that one that's missing of me.
Okay. So this could be part of the problem. Is the anti-slap one in there? In that public folder?
Let me change this view here. Where's my columns? I'm gonna go back here. So that would be in posts. Let's see, developing Harvard cyber law is not in there for some reason. This doesn't appear to be what is making those images work on the remote site.
So the good news is, because it's being served from an Astro, there's a /_Astro there. That is the folder they get to use when an image is processed. So theoretically speaking, this should all be fine. But let's try a build locally. Go out to your root folder, and let's delete the build, and let's just build it fresh. So if you list, there should be like a build.
Is it ast.astro? So I just did a keyboard command, shift command period, turns hidden files on and off. Little trick.
I think it's dist.
Okay, here's dist. Okay, so not a hidden folder, but if you're ever like, wow, there should be other things here, like my git ignore, that's an important file.
That shift command period is so helpful. So let's just, if you're comfortable with it, let's delete this dist folder and build again.
Yeah.
Because everything in here should be generated.
Yes.
Okay. So then let's run that build one more time. Don't run the move images command.
Okay. We'll do npm run build and npm
Well, there's nothing
to
preview, so this should fail.
Oh, I did both. Here, let me do preview.
Oh, you ran them together? No, that's fine. That's totally fine. So let's let's just check and make sure that the images showed up.
Okay, we're looking at local. Yeah, they're showing up now.
Check the path again on that, and let's see if it's coming out of that Astro folder.
It is.
Okay, so let's go back to that one that was in the features where it was broken, and let's see if we can get that one working the way that we want it to.
And I also think I could compare the page that's on. So I can get to that from this feature and then go to the front end masters one. Okay, so this image is loading with this path, the features, images. Marcy.
Okay, so this one is hard coded to your public folder, which means it's not being processed.
Okay.
So we can fix that by moving the image back into this folder.
Mm-hmm. So
and then let's see if we can get that to do what we want.
Marcy 4. Teaching at Front End Masters. Yeah, don't ever do 2 workshops at once.
I did that once. That was a long week.
That was a long 3 months of my life. Okay, where am I going? So it came from public.
Content features. You got to get into your features, right? Yeah.
Yes. And then it's in there.
It is in there. Okay. So this is good news because that means we should be able to delete it from public, making sure that those aren't those are all the same images.
Yeah, they're all feature images. Like I had.
So yeah, we should be able to just delete that whole features folder.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't want this content to live in there. I was just like, where does this live? How do I get it to work?
No. This I think I did the same thing. Like I ended up eventually moving everything to Cloudinary just to reduce the bandwidth I was sending out. But I went through a similar journey where it was like I started in public and I was like, this feels wrong, and then I moved it back in and like hacked through getting it to work through Astro. Then I moved to Unpick, and then I moved to Cloudinary, and Unpick was the end state that I'm in now. But so now that you've got that features gone from the public folder, let's try a build again and let's see if it's still there. Because now it's in the content and the path is correct. So theoretically speaking,
so relative path from this content features directory, there's an images directory, and this image is in that.
Now, is that image in there when we look at it, just to make sure?
Yes, it's right here. Source, content, features, images. Oop.
Okay, and then is that showing up in your IDE as well? Because it wasn't there before, and I just want to make sure that it's still there.
Maybe if I refresh it.
Oop. Yeah. Like you have to like
reload the window.
On Earth, yeah.
Yeah, okay, are we in a weird in there? Are we in the right direction? Okay, source, content, features. Yeah, that's not showing up in there.
And we're in the same folder. This there's not another copy of the Astro site somewhere.
I don't think so. Oh, where? I think.
Oh, okay. So we have content above the source folder, and we have content in the source folder.
Oh, okay. How did that happen? Maybe that was from the part of the moving. So we have content and source. Oh, that might be. This is like a very embarrassing way to pair program the
it's all good. It's all good.
Fail in public.
You've got your config TS there. Let's check your config TS real quick just to make sure. Because the thing I want to make sure is that if we remove that top level content, I want to make sure that we are still getting everything and not like.
Yes, I have seen this file before. Because I was trying to, learning about the APIs in Astro, like defining collections. What do I need in here? The schema, if you wanted to have an image, you have to pass an image through. Like, makes sense. But reading through the docs, there were some cases where maybe you want a collection, maybe you don't.
It's very, I think ultimately it's kind of once you've used them, you'll start to realize when it's more work and when it's not. And I think it's just sort of a case by case. You're kind of like, man, I feel like I'm doing a lot of work to get Astro to just show this thing when I could just drop files into this folder and it would just show the thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's been my life with this so far.
And
especially because I'm translating it from Gatsby to Astro.
Right.
So like, what do I want to move? What do I need to move? Like those are the decisions.
And what I found, like my general guidance for like when a content collection makes sense in Astro is if it's something where you want validation on what's in it, like you want your front matter to always match and to like throw errors if you've got things that aren't recognized. Like a good example is like tag creep on posts, where if you have an arbitrary tag field, you just over time add a million tags and they're all one-offs. And it's like, why even have this? Because it's not like you can't filter on that tag. It's just one post. So in Astro's content collections, you can do a union and like set an enumerated list of these are the allowed tags. And that way, if you try to add a new tag that doesn't have any matching content, you have to make the conscious decision to go in and edit your content collection to allow that new tag. Otherwise, it's going to be like, hey, that's not allowed. And you're like, oh, yeah, because that's not what I call this thing. It's actually called this other thing that is in the allowed list.
Oh, yeah, I tagged it with accessibility and not A11Y, that kind of thing.
Exactly, right? And so my blog used to be just a graveyard of like one-off tags, and then I implemented this and ultimately just did away with tags entirely because I was like, I'm not using these in any consistent way. Like, why am I wasting mental space on this?
Yes, totally.
But okay,
And
so
that's the type of thing you could do up front on the server side. That doesn't need to be client rendered.
Exactly. Okay, so let's see if we can solve this source folder problem. Let's maybe commit just in case we break everything, so you've got a rollback point, and then let's actually just delete that top level content folder and only keep the one in the source.
That sounds good. And I have another copy of everything if I get to that point. Okay, I've got some edits here. This is a new computer, so I don't have I don't have my ZSH terminal all colorful and whatnot. So if you're like, what's up with that? It's a brand new computer. Okay. And I was going to delete the top level. Oh, wait, maybe I'll do a commit and then I can delete it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is if you have everything in here, then when you delete it, it won't. We have a bailout if you're missing something.
Yes. And then if I go over to the Astro site, delete.
Gone. All right, so let's try another build and let's just see if it works.
Okay. Build and preview. Let's go. And then I do want to compare it to, local dev, because there was
this worked.
Discrepancies. Yeah, it didn't complain. I guess the build
good
system
news.
will yell at you if you do something that it can't complete.
And then
there.
Okay. No, so this is good.
Now...
So where is it trying to go?
It is just oh yeah, so this is the thing. The blog posts they end up getting flattened. Like they're in a post directory and then the URL becomes like it's not in posts. And maybe what is the actual stuff?
Do you want that to be?
I would like to not have to do a bunch of redirects.
Yeah.
So this is how Gatsby believe I didn't set them up to be like in a post directory. I think it just did it that way, but it's been so long. So to not have to do a bunch of redirects for every single page on my website, it would be nice to keep it the same, but
can you go to that feature? Yeah. Well, actually, let's look at your preview. Did the anti-slap one break? Because this is the feature.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the anti-slap one is fine. Let's go to the features and let's figure out what your site is doing for those.
Yes. So this one was the front-end masters one.
Right.
Go back to that post. Yeah, so none of the features are working.
Okay, so let's go to your live site and let's see how it structures these, because it's flattening them right now.
I think those are flattened as well. So like the testing accessibility one, it's just a straight URL. It's not in a features directory.
Okay.
So I should probably check the paths of these images though, like compare one that works to one that doesn't. So
what we should see, if I'm correct in this, is we'll see that the ones that the pathing worked on are going to show you a underscore Astro path because they'll be processed, and the other ones, because they weren't matched, are going to show you the original URL, which is going to be broken because Astro didn't do anything with it, and the path doesn't line up anymore. So what we need to figure out is when images are in a markdown file that is changing its slug from the structure, then it could be
posts are still in the public folder from the move. I moved things. I'm gonna delete those and then see what happens. I bet that one that was working isn't gonna work now.
Okay, yeah, let's try it.
Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. Oh,
did you rebuild?
I did not. Made a mess. You're helping me with my mess here. Okay, well, it seemed to work.
Okay, so this is good, and it's still like an underscore Astro URL on that image.
Let's see.
That's kind of our tell that we're doing it right.
Yes.
Okay, so that one's being processed, which is great news. So then the next thing we want to figure out is did anything in the features change? My guess is no.
No, I don't think so. So if I look at this, maybe it needs to be like. See, what I don't get is if Astro's processing these images and they're in, like it's going to look in this images folder, which is within the features, but then it's flattening the URL. Like that's fine, but how is it originally going to find this image? Like, do I have to structure my blog content so that it's co-located but not in an images folder? Like that's what I don't really follow. For example,
let's try that as an experiment. Let's go into this testing accessibility one, and let's drop that one image right next to it.
Okay. Let's see, which image did I have? I'll just copy all of these and put them here. So rather than being in an images directory, I'm just going to delete that out of there.
Okay, so let's give this a shot and see what happens here. Oh, and then we need all those to get updated across your whole post, probably.
Yes. Okay. Command D to select the same text in multiple instances. In case you didn't, I'm just going to say what my little shortcuts are. So here's one. I think that's the only one in here. New front matter images are being handled separately, so I'm just looking at the part of the markdown content itself.
And I just realized that, okay. I'm hoping this works here, because I think what happened was, no luck.
Negative. Let's see. The front end masters one. This image is right here. It is in a content features directory. The posts ones worked. I wonder if I need to look at the config at all to see if there's differences. Like,
can you try just on this one for that Marcy 4? Add the slash features, because my hunch is what's going wrong here is that Astro is expecting the path to line up with the with where the images are. And so because you're manually changing the path, I think it's still not doing it. Does it? It shows the slash images. Okay, let me do a quick check here, because I feel like the path is kind of is a little odd.
Yeah, okay, I'm wondering.
Let's try this. Go instead of path, change path to slug, and drop the in the front matter.
Oh.
And drop the leading slash. And let's try that, because I think that doesn't mess with what Astro uses for the where things are. But let's try just this one before we change anything else to make sure that I'm right.
Yeah, the weird thing is that the post version works. This got mad. I think I might need to do a data sync.
Oh, this is because your content config is specifying the path. So let's for now, let's cheat. And let's set the path to optional and add a slug as optional as well on line 8 there. Or wait, no,
looking
on the features.
Real quickly, I'm looking at posts features. Like posts was working, feature was not.
Right. So let's fix features. So line 24 instead.
Line 24 right here.
And the reason I think that posts is working is because the posts are they're like, we're not dropping a path. And on features we're like dropping the features folder out. And so the path matches on posts, but not on features is my hunch.
Even though, like, if we look at the information architecture, or like the schema here, features and posts are both directories. So I guess one thing, oh, I see what you're saying. The file is, like, if I put testing accessibility in a directory with an index file, then it would have the same shape as the post version.
Oh, that's
if that makes sense.
See, this doesn't feel right. It feels like we're doing something wrong here.
I know. Well, see, look at this one. It's the post version is in the same, like they're set up in directories, but then this piece of content is an index file in a folder. That shouldn't make a difference. Maybe it does make a difference.
It shouldn't. Well, you know what? Let's try it. Why not?
Let's try it. So if I do this and I move it, because we've got Git to back us up, right?
Right.
I'm going to move the images in the same directory. I'm going to get out of here.
You're going to have to fix that path again. Oh, you already did that.
I think so. Yeah. Let me go over here. It's in the same directory. No.
Did any of the other ones below work?
Good question. I think there's only one image on here. You could see, well, writing didn't change, so that's the same. Like, what is the difference? There's probably something really simple. One
of the major catch is that you're using the old content config. So they've updated the way that it works since, and we can, if you want to, we can migrate that, and that could be that's going to be a little bit of a pain in the ass. But what version of Astro are you
on? Good question. 5.13.7.
I think that's pretty close to latest. So yeah, I think if we wanted to do the content collections, the quote unquote, right? I guess not quote unquote, just the like modern way. The content config moves out of the content folder and into source/content.config.ts. But they change the format a little bit to use loaders instead, and so it doesn't change a ton. There's a migrating thing, if I can find it. Where's it at?
Astro. Okay, so that's why I was confused. For some reason in my re-platform conversion, I ended up with both types of config files. Not really sure why, I wonder. But that might be.
I think a lot of the catch is that the LLMs don't have a ton of Astro stuff to work with, and so I think they might get confused about like what's latest versus not. But okay, so let's do this. Let's create content.config.ts in the root of your source folder.
Content.config.ts.
Yeah, but in source. Yeah.
Okay. Content.config.ts.
And so this, you're going to be able to copy paste almost the entire config.ts from there. And what's going to change is now we have this concept of Astro loaders. So you're going to, on your, instead of a type content, you'll find it under content collections, under adding content to your site. I'll drop a link to the chat as well for everybody.
Adding content to your site.
And the specific section is the built-in loaders is what we're looking for.
Okay. Built-in loaders. There it is.
And so what we're doing here is we're going to swap out. Right now, it's using type content. So we're going to change that to a loader, and the loader is going to be this glob pattern there that's being shown that grabs your markdown files.
Oh, I see. Okay. I copied that from the docs. So, okay, it looks like define collection is still there. We're probably not going to need the Z anymore.
You will still need the Z because it lives in it's still used for the schema. But instead of type content, it's going to be a loader prop.
I see. Okay, so I'm going to delete this stuff from the docs, but I've got the loader in my clipboard.
Yes, and then the base just needs to get updated to where your content lives.
Source content posts.
Okay, and so that
source content.
good. That
seems
should
a little
move
more
us.
declarative.
Yeah, and it's like you can also do custom stuff now, where like if you wanted to load from an API or whatever, you can just create a custom loader to do that. Which is why it's sort of, it's full circle back to the Gatsby loaders.
Some things worked, some things did not.
Exactly, right? And the nice thing about this is that you don't have to use this. Like I think where Gatsby got things wrong was they forced everything into the loaders. And with Astro, it's like you don't even need to know these exist. You use them when it's time. And so this should start to modify the way that this works. So let's just see what kind of happens right out of the gate here.
Well, it didn't yell at me.
Yeah, so
for my local dev. Oh, I think I have my templates are probably not. They're probably like using the old.
Let's see.
API content entry.render. So that page, that is this pages slug. So here's a template. So these dynamic pages use this template, and then there's some logic. I think this is the one I was looking at.
Right.
Entry.render, here, content. So the content is being loaded differently now.
And the entry is, now this should be right. So entry and type, the entry comes in, and then it's content is await render entry. It's entry dot. It's so await render, and then you pass entry to it now is the difference. And render gets imported from Astro content at the top.
Cool.
Okay. So that should solve that problem for these ones. So let's make sure that's working in dev, or at least get us a different error. Okay, so that's working. Images are still not working, and my hunch that it's related to the path remains. But getting us here,
see if the
gets
blog
us
post
closer.
one worked. Yeah, that worked. My sidebar is gone, but I just probably need to go fiddle with the rendering some more.
Yeah,
I can figure that out. The image part.
Right. So let's do. What are we doing on time? We are doing just fine. So let's go into the features content declaration. Well, actually, let's delete the config.ts out of the content folder because we're dropped that now.
Yep, good call.
And let's make sure that didn't break anything. What's the error that it's giving you on Astro content?
I don't know. That's been coming up here and there. And I have not been able to figure out what that is about, because that's should be coming from Astro.
Yeah,
I wondered if it's like
the Astro plugin for VS Code or the extension.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Okay. Sometimes once you're running the dev server, just like reloading the IDE will cause that stuff to clear up. Because it's all like it's generated stuff, so it can get kind of weird in that sense. Let's see. Oh yeah, that looks like it fixed it. Yep.
Cool.
Okay.
Oh,
so
nope. Back again.
You little punk. Okay. Well, it's not breaking, so let's ignore it.
I know. I thought maybe it was obscuring, like there's some other error that like maybe that it's, I don't know. Having worked with types and modules for long enough, sometimes it's a red herring and it's pointing out something else, but it was hard to tell.
Well, let's try this. Let's try my hunch here. And down on line 25, mark the path string as optional, and then add a new property below it that is a slug that's optional. And let's just swap out on that testing accessibility page the path for a slug like we had talked about before, and just drop that leading slash.
Slug. And we're on dev now, so I shouldn't need to. Oh.
Let's I think because it's front matter, we might want to stop and restart, just because sometimes the schema stuff can be a little funky.
Oh, something in my template is not happy.
Line 18, it said.
Oh, because I was changing paths in here. That's probably why. That's how that was handled. There's a lot of parts there's a lot of parts that go into a website like this. We're talking about keeping it simple, and then we get into like this can of worms. It's kind of funny.
So that was in your slug, right?
Yes, that was in the template. Yes, here.
Okay, and
I think, was that where this was? Yeah, here we go. Okay, data path. Oh yeah, I see. So there's no slug now.
Let's just,
I'm gonna turn on wrapping so we can see the whole thing.
Can we maybe just drop? I think we can just. Oh, I see what's going on. Let's. So what we need to do is we need to just kind of give it a use the slug if you got it, or use the data path.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I'm correct about this, then what we're going to end up doing is we'll be able to get rid of this entirely because slug is going to be used.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, how do we just validate it without, because like I could see, you do some, I would say
do like post data dot slug and then do the double question mark. So like, yeah. Or I guess in this case, feature data.slug.
Oh yeah. So we're in a. This is kind of hard to see with wrapping, but we're in a map function. And just try to like bust this out so you can kind of see where we are. So we're iterating over the list of featured content, and then pulling out some of the front matter.
And then are you using this in a oh yeah, this is your get static pass call. So basically you're creating all of the params and props so that we can generate stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Does that look right? The
That
what is this
that
nullish?
that
What is it?
should do what we want,
Operator
because
called?
it'll start with the slug if it's got it, and then it falls back to path, which only the one post doesn't have a path, so it should work the same for everybody else.
Yes, nullish coalescing. Okay, fancy.
That's the one. Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so it's not
probably
exploding
restart.
anymore. That's good.
It is not loading content now.
It's not loading that particular page, which isn't great. Is it loading any of the writing?
Oh, none of them are there anymore. The writing is there, but we haven't changed that yet. So that one's still using path.
Right.
The front end masters one is the only one that's. Oh wait, testing accessibility. Nope, that was cached. So yeah, that the featured content is not working now.
Okay.
And I guess my home module is gone also. So there was like the feature pages, and then there was also like content being, I think the way it created the collection of content, there was like a
was like
homepage
pulling that
module.
stuff in. Okay.
I'm not as concerned about that. I figured that out later, but we're missing all of the features now.
Yeah. Okay. So let's figure out what's going on here by perhaps. Oh, I know why. It's because the slug is special in Astro and it gets changed to the ID. So do feature.id. And you don't need the slug. And the reason for this is because by default, Astro will use the name of the file as the slug, and you can specifically override if you want to, which in this case you do, because you don't want that /features, which would be included in the generated slug.
So there is a warning here from the router that says a get static paths route pattern was matched, but no matching static path was found for requested path testing accessibility. What does that mean?
That means that we're doing something wrong. Okay, you know what? Let's try this. Delete the slug entirely. Let's see what it generates.
Okay. From the content, you
from
mean?
the front end masters one, or whichever one we were editing, testing accessibility.
Oh, well, I think I might have mixed up which ones I was working on.
Was it the front end masters one?
I think I was doing both. So this, here, slug.
Yeah, let's just get rid of that entirely.
Content. Okay.
And let's.
Possible dynamic routes being matched. It is not working.
Let's try logging what's coming out of the features to see if it's like giving us something weird.
Okay.
And that was in your slug page where that was happening.
Oh yeah. See, I get so confused in here. I also have too many tabs.
This is like building your instincts about a framework, or it's just such a pain.
Okay, so we're going to log from here.
Yeah, so I think you'll have to edit that map a little bit to be able to log it, but
oh wait, how am I gonna? Okay, so I'm returning a.
I think you just have to like change that from parentheses to curly braces and then return.
Yes.
And then you can just console log before.
I didn't get my closing.
You've got one extra. There you go.
I don't think I have prettier on here, so it's not like reformatting everything all perfect, which, man, you really get used to that.
Really,
to,
really do.
Adjust your spaces. Oh, man. Yeah, my day job, I have prettier. I need to get it running on this setup too.
Okay, so let's just see what comes out here.
Okay, it is running. It's got the content. So here's the collection. Testing accessibility. What are we looking for?
Well, the fact that it came out and it came out as the ID, right, was testing accessibility.
Yes, ID.
Okay.
What does the other ones look like? ID, Smashing Book 6.
And then do you see in the data, we've got the path, which is
That one
also
still
Smashing
had,
Book 6.
yeah, I didn't delete that one out of the content. So that's still in the front matter of another page. So for the one that we have been looking at, there is no path or slug in here anymore.
Okay, so let's look at what it's generating. So instead of logging what comes in, let's log what goes out.
Okay.
So like throw it into a variable and then log that.
Okay, I've got a result. I'm going to say console log result, and then I'm going to return that result.
Yeah.
Go down here. We've got params path.
Is testing accessibility.
ID.
Oh, wait. Hold on. Why is it params path? Go to the next one up.
They all get that, I guess, as part of, because that's part of here. We're creating params path. That's this.
Oh, okay, but that needs to be slug.
Okay.
Because slug. the param is what the file name looks for, like the ... slug.
Oh, well,
that's what's.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all right. Great.
See if my homepage module is still gone. I will figure that. I don't even know how that was wired up anymore. But the image is still.
Yeah. So let's look at what the path is on it.
It's not doing the conversion to the Astro directory it's just so weird that it was working on the post, but not on these features.
Yeah.
Like, what's with that?
Okay, and let's just double check that the paths are there again.
Yes. So we are in source, content, features, testing accessibility, has its images right next to it, so it should be there.
And testing accessibility banner at 2x.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's pixel density images.
Just to double check, that path is exactly the same.
I will copy
it should be, but
yes, I will copy the path and double check. So if we are in this file, it's relative to the folder that the post itself is in. And I can see it right here next to it. We've moved these images into the same directory.
Yeah.
Why are they not being converted? Strange.
Is the front end masters one doing anything? Just to double check.
Good question. The page is still loading. I think it still has a slug or a path in the front matter,
fine.
But we're not really using that. I guess it's the nullish coalescing is pointing it to there, but the content part is it's pulling out the slug now.
Mm-hmm.
This image is still. This is the one that's the Marcy 4 image that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of showing the same problem, whether it's a post in a directory, like whether it's in a front-end master's directory with an index file, it's doing the same thing. So that experiment didn't seem to change anything.
Well, let's go back to this one here, and let's just update that to the absolute path. So go from like /source and build the path straight in. With no leading dot.
Oh, root.
Yeah. And then what are we at? We're at features / testing accessibility.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so if you hover over that, that image works. So let's see if Astro picked it up.
I might restart. What page was it? Oh, I was in testing accessibility. Ah,
Okay, so that's working. Is it coming out of the Astro folder though?
nope.
Okay. So,
And I wonder if when this got deployed, whether we'd be back to where I started, where the path might not be right because Astro is not processing it.
yeah, that's exactly what I'm worried about, is that is what is happening. So the thing that I want to figure out is why. Let's check on your posts one more time. That one's
why
working.
Is that one? Yeah, why is that one working? It's so weird. I'm curious if like posts are handled. I mean, we're setting up the config with very specific names of things like posts, features.
Yeah.
So I would be surprised if it was something automatic.
It shouldn't be. The content collection shouldn't do that at all. So let's double check. Let's look at the config one more time just to make sure. In the content config, we're using the same glob pattern. We're pulling in source content posts. We're pulling in source content features. Cover image is image. Okay, so that's all being pulled in. Yeah, that's all doing exactly what we would expect.
How does content come in? Like this is getting, I guess the loader is what's grabbing the markdown.
Right. And since they're all being pulled in the same way, it feels safe to assume that they would be processed in the same way. So let's look at how they're being exported just to make sure nothing weird's going on. Just at the bottom of the file here. Post features,
yeah. They all have the same name. So then my next step would be to go to look at the slug and see. Yeah. So we've got post features talks. Those names are all right. Posts is the part that's working. So for this one, we've got params slug. Format this a little bit so we can compare. Why are you commenting that out? VS Code. I hit return. It's like commenting stuff out. That's bizarre. Like highlighting it, and then I guess that does that function. Okay, so here we've got params slug. Yeah, weird. My VS Code is auto highlighting stuff for some reason. Okay, so we've got params slug. Props. Oh, props is. Am I dreaming, or is this inside of? Is params and props not inside of the same object? What am I looking at here? Oh, I think there's a.
Oh, yep.
Is it the same? They look the same when I.
It should be they should. I mean, they should be the same, and it should yell at you if they're not.
Yes,
but that absolutely would have caused that problem.
Yeah, entry feature, type post.
Type feature, type post. Head down. Is there anything in the type that's being like changing what's being rendered if we scroll down a little bit?
Post feature talk. That's the type.
And then the content is
features talks.
And we're not processing the content or anything, are we? Like if you keep scrolling down.
I don't believe so. It like adds dynamic class names depending on what type of content you're on, because they have slightly different like sidebar contents. I don't think there's anything going on. Oh, here's a Gatsby artifact. This is kind of fun. The route target heading. That's that feature. We talked about it in our interview portion of how because we don't have client-side routing anymore, I had invented this like automatic focus management client-side routing approach in Gatsby. That's going to go away. So this fancy route target heading thing is an artifact of the old site. Kind of fun walk down memory lane here. So
okay, but so the content is being rendered universally.
Pretty simply.
Okay. So there is no reason path name and your base layout's not doing anything. What's going on with your
like this or entry dot?
well, that would
Is
be
it ID?
ID.
Like that? I don't know if that would make a difference.
That really shouldn't. I don't know what it would be doing.
Kind of a stumper. I might need to, speaking of tinkering, I might need to go tinker with this some more. I mean, I'm looking very carefully at this path replace.
Right. And I mean, all this replace is doing is taking off the leading slash, which is kind of in a perfect world, we wouldn't have those, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So, and the nice thing is like in the future, if you kind of migrate everything over to use the slug instead of the path, it will turn into that ID for you, and it'll yell if you don't have one, so that you don't have to do those replacements.
Yeah, and I would do that cleanup work, because like every bit of code like this that you're maintaining, like then you're having to go chase down stuff like this. So I think that would be, since we're getting to the end of time, I think my next steps will be go through all the content, make sure they all have the same slug, like get rid of some of this, fancy path manipulation, and just go with the slug and ID, see if the posts still work, and like then just try to see what the differences are at that point.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe just try, like, for the sake of chaos agent testing, throw the features into the posts and see if they're still wrong. And then like pull them back out, right? Because it's like the thing that seems weird to me is let's see, it's because it is the PNG, like, yeah, it's all like all of this is doing what I would expect it to do. So the pieces that are like kind of where I would go from here, knowing that we're at time, is I would be looking at wait now. But that's the absolute that's the absolute URL, right? And we figured out that that's not. So the things that I'm wondering about here is like the processing should be getting picked up and working with files relative to the markdown. And if that's not happening, that it points to something strange going on, right? And so right, so try that, and that probably doesn't fix it because that's where we were before.
Yeah. That's the hard part, is like you work on it, you like get all this, build this, context, and then you put it down and come back to it a week later. It's like, wait, where am I at? That's where we started at this on this session. But I'm learning a lot more about Astro.
So my immediate hunch here is that there's something goofy going on with. So like the thing that we can do is Astro will pull from any folder, so you don't need them to be nested in content anymore. You can actually pull them up. You'll just need to adjust your paths. You can well, so yeah, like Fuzzy's saying, like move them, but so one of the main goals we're going for here is to not have to move all of the files, right? Like we want to be able to use them where they are, and Astro should and claims to do that, right? And so the problem isn't yeah, right. And like using the Astro image would mean porting all of this to MDX, which isn't necessarily out of the question, but isn't ideal. Like the ideal is Astro will process markdown images in place. That's in the docs. That's in how it claims to work. So unless we found a bug, this should work, right? And the fact that it's working in posts and not working in features leads to probably some weird config thing that's going wrong, or potentially a strange bug. And so the things that I would start testing would be like drag them into posts, make sure that it's not just like, oh, we just absolutely missed that this whole file was broken to begin with. The other things I would test would be, are there, like, did we do something with the maybe the like features is doing something weird to like rename the folder. Like I would just start kind of like chaos engineering that way.
I think it's just that post that's working. Now that I compare, like this first one is working for some reason. So that tells me that maybe that image lives somewhere else than the rest of the content is
Can you find it
expecting.
anywhere else in your file tree? Like if you look for that image name?
Yeah, what is this one called? Yeah, what is that one called? So yeah, I think by just poking around looking at the other content, I think I figured out there's something else going on here. Hero lawsuit. I guess I need to look here. So there's one in source content posts. That's the only one. But yeah, that's what I'll do. Like, go compare, what's working, what's not. Like, why is that one working? I think there's something there. And it gives me hope. I have one that works.
Yeah, something's definitely goofy here. And then you've got an offer. Fuzzy was on the Astro team and is willing to take a look if you want.
Cool.
And I can also, I feel like there's something, I feel like it's going to be something simple. Like when we find it, we're all going to go, oh my God.
I know. I know.
But since we are out of time, I think we're going to wrap it here. This is public. So do you want to drop a link in the private chat and I can relay it?
Sure. Yeah. Let me, I'll probably stop sharing for now.
Yeah. Let me I'll move us back to the two up here.
Yeah, I have to get back to work.
I know. We gotta do the thing. Okay, so I'm gonna drop this link for anybody who wants to take a look, and we will figure this out. And just keep an eye if you want to see how this resolves. Keep an eye on the commit history in Marcy's site for when we get this thing sorted. So Marcy, thank you so much for honestly being super vulnerable with your code here, and I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I will push up my commits because I think I have stuff locally that isn't in the live site. But yeah, thanks to everyone for chiming in. I was not watching the chat, so I'm sure that there was some great insights because you have such a great audience that follows along. I so appreciate getting to spend time with you, Jason. And it's kind of fun to do a personal project and not, my day job.
I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Everybody you can follow Marcy on what will eventually be a Gatsby site at marcysutton.com.
An Astro site.
So yeah, that's what I meant. It's currently a Gatsby site. It will be an Astro site. And remember, you can always, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. It really helps us in ways that it shouldn't, but it does. Leave a comment. That one's really helpful. Thank you all so much for watching. We will see you next time.